Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We are on a website called Cars and Bids, which is Doug DeMuro's new car auctioning website. And before I actually get into some of the cars, I do want to tell you what the website is. It's obviously a car bidding website, and you can only bid from cars that are like from the 80s to now. So if you have like an 83 interesting car or a brand new interesting car, you can sell it. But if it is like a regular Ford Focus or whatever, it's not going to make the list. Even if you have like a Ford Fusion Titanium or whatever the top of the line model is from like 2014, it's not going to qualify. It has to be interesting cars. Doug DeMuro specifically stated that it had to be interesting cars, and they will turn down your car if it's not an interesting car. They turned down a high mileage old Sentra. They probably turned down a bunch of cars. So just to get that out of the way, if anybody's actually watching this who is interested in buying a car or selling a car, those are the rules, in case you didn't already know. And so I'm just going to go ahead and look at some of the cars. I have not seen half the cars I'm going to show you, but the first car I would like to show you, if it's still here, is the Suzuki Cappuccino. I know it's at the bottom, but this happens to be my favorite car on the list. I don't necessarily know why. We are going to look at some of the pictures. Now, if the car has like 200 pictures, I'm not going to look through all of them. I want this to be a short-ish video. Of course, it's not going to be like a 5-minute video, but I don't want it to be a 25 or 30-minute video either. So anyway, here is a 94 Suzuki Cappuccino. It's a rare limited trim with factory LSD and fresh servicing, which is interesting. Before we actually look at the pictures, though, let's see what the highest bid is. The highest bid is $5,800. Now, I should mention that I am filming this video on Sunday, June 28th at 6:27 p.m. current time, Central Time. And so by the time you see it, which will probably be tomorrow, June 29th, the car will probably be gone or close to being gone, just to get that out of the way. Again, highest bid is $5,800, which is interesting. It's a rear-wheel drive, 5-speed manual. 77,000 miles, and it's currently in Oregon. It's a convertible with a 657cc engine, a turbocharged 3-cylinder. So don't expect this to be like ultra fast, because pretty much any car on the road is going to be faster than this. And then let's go ahead and look at Doug's take just for fun. Let's see. It says, just imagine it. 1,600 pounds, rear-wheel drive, and a factory limited slip differential. This thing is just so cool, and it's a big fun for the money. And I suspect it drives a lot more like a go-kart than all the other cars people always say drive like a go-kart. Just make sure you fit before you buy it. Yes, this car is incredibly tiny, it's incredibly small, but it's also incredibly interesting because, well, you just don't see it. And say, hopefully not, but let's say that you have something that breaks on the car, it's just going to be broken, or you're going to have to fix it yourself because, well, pretty much none of these exist in America. Suzuki's hardly exist in America. And, well, it's just so cool to see something that was originally sold in Japan. This was probably a Japanese man's car. He was probably driving this around Tokyo in '94. And then it ended up here like last year. It's a really cool car. And I'm so glad this one is on Cars and Bids. Now, I happen to like all the Japanese K cars from this era, like the Honda Beat. That's also kind of interesting. The Toyota Sierra is also kind of interesting. All of these cars are just so interesting because, well, we don't get them here, unfortunately. Only Japan and like those East Asian countries got them, and we pretty much get what they want us to have. And they didn't want us to have the Cappuccino, they didn't want us to have the Beat, they didn't want us to have the Sierra. Those were the 3 most interesting cars of this era. We're looking at some of the pictures now. You can see just kind of minor details right now. There it is, parked next to 2 Toyotas. You have a RAV4 on the left and a Tacoma on the right, and those cars pretty much dwarf this car. Even though these aren't even like large cars, they dwarf the Cappuccino, which is kind of interesting. Here's some interior shots of it. Looks very nice. Aftermarket steering wheel, pretty obvious. It's a Momo steering wheel, which is nice. There's your gauge cluster. Very, very simple. This is like a very nice car. and I just kind of like it. Now, of course, we're not going to go through all the pictures. I stopped at about picture 45. If you want to go and look at these, I will link cars and bids in the description below, so you can go watch it. Now, the next car I want to show you is this. A 2002 Mercedes-Benz ML55 AMG. This one is kind of interesting simply because, well, it's an ML55, which is like a suburban kind of mom car, and then it's an AMG. So this is a high-powered, this is like the super sporty variant of the ML, which was already sort of an interesting car. This, fun fact actually, this was the same car that, not the exact same, but this is the same car that Hoovie had back in like 2017. It was stolen, the exact same color. It's very interesting that, well, you're seeing it here. It's a very nice car. Nothing wrong with it, pretty much, at least cosmetically. I mean, it is a little bit old. It does have high miles. When you see the interior, it is sort of going to show its age, if it doesn't already from the outside. You can see the front end of it. It looks very nice. In fact, this one actually has blue headlights. That's kind of interesting. I think these are xenons or something like that. I don't really know bunch about headlights. Turn signal mirrors on both sides, pretty obvious. It does have some minor scuffs and minor scrapes. Of course, this is an 18-year-old car, but still, it looks very nice for its age. It definitely has aged very well. And then look at this. It says AMG on the exhaust tip, which is just very interesting. Also, this car has 180 pictures. I'm not looking through all these pictures. Nice sunroof. It's a very, very nice car. It looks like it was well maintained. Here's the interior. Now, one interesting thing is, I don't know if this screen right here where you see my mouse, I don't know if that is a factory or if that was, added later. I believe this was factory. Back in 2002, you can get this with the screen. Now, obviously, the BMW 7 Series, some of the other cars from this era, they started introducing screens at this time. It's still kind of rare to see a screen, though, on a car from this era. Now, one more thing I want to show you is the seats. Actually, let's go back. The seats, you can see they are starting to show their age. Leather this is one of the reasons I actually don't like leather, because after like a few 100,000 miles, the leather starts to give way. It starts to become older, and it just doesn't look all that nice anymore. As you can see here, it's got some cracks, it's got some tears. It doesn't look like it would from like 2002. So if I were buying a car, I would always get it with cloth seats because, well, cloth doesn't do that. You just have to be more careful with cloth. Anyway, and also the interior sort of looks like, I don't necessarily know. It looks like an old man interior, but at the same time it doesn't. Like the gray, the brown, that it just kind of looks like an old man interior. But at the same time, it looks like something a mom would drive to drive her 3 kids to soccer practice at the same time. It's a very interesting looking vehicle. It really is. I do like it, but I don't necessarily know. Also, this was before the time when Mercedes started using the power seats on the doors. Just found that out not too long ago. Anyway, so that was the ML55 AMG. I'm not about to look at this whole thing again because I want this to be sort of a short video. The next car I'm going to take a look at is this, a 2004 Volkswagen Phaeton. Now, this one is special simply because, well, it's special because, well, nobody really bought it. And it's a Canadian market Volkswagen Phaeton. Fun fact, if a car like, for example, I don't know, any car, the Kia K900, if that car didn't sell well here in the US, which it didn't, it sold abysmally, you can almost bet that the car, you can almost guarantee that the car in Canada sells not even half the units it sold in America, which is just interesting. I couldn't even find any sales numbers for this car in Canada. They sold so few of these in Canada. These are like ultra rare. You could show up to Cars and Coffee with one of these and people will not even know what it is. It's the rarest car in the country, well, one of the rarest cars in the country. It's just so cool. Let's go ahead and see what the highest bid is. I forgot to do that for the ML. I apologize. Highest bid, $4,500. I think this car should go for double that. This car is so cool. It's so interesting. I think it should go for at least $10K. If it sells for 9, that's okay, but I think it should sell for at least 10K. 4,500 is way too cheap for an ultra luxury sedan. Would you pay $4,500 for an S class with how many miles does it have? Okay, it does have high miles, but you wouldn't pay $4,500 from an S class for an S class from this era. So treat this like you would treat an S class. The only difference is, well, it has a Volkswagen badge instead of a Mercedes or an Audi badge. That's the only difference, but this car is still very, very cool. Anyway, before we actually get into it, I forgot to do all the specifics for the ML. But you can see this one is an all-wheel drive variant. It's not the W12, which is unfortunate. It's just using a 4.2 V8, which is unfortunate, but still. Now let's go ahead and read Doug's take. The Phaeton is a legend, an icon, and also not exactly a success story, as it was Volkswagen's attempt at a luxury sedan that most people didn't seem to still want. Still, it was loaded with equipment, as its subtle styling attracted some buyers who didn't want the flamboyance of a Mercedes-Benz. This, I truly believe, if this were an Audi, it would have sold. Truly, I don't know what Volkswagen was doing, if they just wanted to try something different, if they just had money to waste. But this was truly an awful attempt because, well, it's a Volkswagen. Why would you even want to market a luxury vehicle, an ultra luxury vehicle, as a Volkswagen? And also another thing that, well, deterred buyers from this thing was the fact that, well, it was $120,000 back in 04, 05 when these things were new. And I don't think too many people are going to be willing to pay $120K for a Volkswagen when, you know, if you want something with a better name, you go out and get a Mercedes for like the same price or less. It really didn't make sense why Volkswagen decided they could do this, because truly this was just, it was an attempt. It wasn't a bad attempt, like I just said, but it wasn't a good attempt, because if you wanted something that was luxurious, you wouldn't go out and get a Volkswagen. People associate Volkswagens with like a 16-year-old girl's first car. You see all the time 16-year-old girls get Volkswagen Beetles for their first cars. That's pretty much what Volkswagen is known for. They're not necessarily known for luxury vehicles. Now, one thing I would like to point out is that the seller who was selling this car, not saying anything rude or disrespectful, but taking a picture vertically probably wasn't the best idea, as you're only getting a little shot of the car. First of all, they're in a garage, so you're not even able to get the full car. You're having to squeeze through all the stuff in your garage, through all the walls and stuff, to be able to take somewhat good pictures. They're not bad pictures, but they could have been much better. Like this one, it looks pretty good. But the other ones in the garage, they just didn't. The interior, same deal. I'll go back. If you could see the front driver's seat, it's starting to crack, it's starting to fade, because that's what leather does at that age. Now, this car was loaded back in like 2004. It had everything. The S-Class didn't even have half the features that this Volkswagen had, and yet the S-Class sold like 25 times more units than Volkswagen sold. And Volkswagen still hasn't learned their lesson, because they're selling the Arteon. They sold the CC. They had to cancel the CC because of bad sales, and they still haven't learned their lesson. That's just interesting that Volkswagen is just still trying to bring luxury cars into the mainstream car market, when clearly it wasn't working. The only thing they got right was the fact that they severely cut the price, like in half, over half. It was like an over 50% discount. Also, this car does have rear window shades, which is nice. And I know I'm just kind of talking. It really has nothing to do with the car itself. I'm just kind of talking just to, get some content out here. And so that was the 2004 Volkswagen Phaeton. This was their flagship luxury sedan. Go bid on it right now, if it's still here. It should be still here, because you're going to see this on Monday, hopefully. So this has no reserve. Go bid on it right now and make me happy. Bid over half. Bid $9,000 on this. Whoever bids next, if you're watching this, bid like $10K on this. This deserves more than just $4,500. That is too low for such an amazing car that didn't really get what it deserved. This was a great car. It just didn't get what it deserved. The next car I want to show you, another weird one. a 99 Plymouth Prowler. Now, actually, this was at one of my local car dealerships not too long ago. I didn't go record it because I didn't go there. But still, this was at one of my local car dealerships. I'll see if I can put it on the screen so you can see it. But yeah, I was at one of my local car dealerships not too long ago, a 99. I believe it was silver. But whatever the case is, this one has 10,000 miles, and they're trying to sell it for $17K. $17K is not a bad price for one of these, but because, you know, they don't really make these, you don't actually know how much they should be selling for. Unlike the Phaeton and the ML, you know how much those should be selling for. You don't necessarily know how much a Prowler should be selling for because, well, it has some issues. Anyway, it's just so cool. All right, let's look at some of the specs. Again, 17,000 is rear-wheel drive with a 4-speed automatic transmission. There's only a handful of cars that that are still being made today with the 4-speed automatic. One of them is the Dodge Journey. Yeah, the Dodge Journey still uses a 4-speed. Anyway, the exterior color is known as Prowler Yellow. Now, I have not looked at this car until this very second. Prowler Yellow, and this car has such an iconic yellow color that they decided to name it Prowler Yellow. That's just interesting. Now, unfortunately, through the camera, you're only seeing it like sort of a tinted yellow, more of an orange, because, well, the camera is kind of not picking up all the colors and stuff because, well, obviously a camera and a computer, they're not going to pick up all the colors that vibrantly. But anyway, yes, go look at it for yourself. It's yellow. It's very cool. 10,000 miles. This thing has pretty much a ton of life left in it, at least 100,000 more miles on it. If you take good care of it, you can probably keep this for a long, long time. It's a 3.5 V6, which is interesting. It's a very, very well-maintained car. This probably only had like 3 oil changes in its life because it has such low miles. Maybe this might not be the correct mileage. I'm going to be honest. This might not be the correct mileage because this is a 21-year-old car with 10,000 miles. If that's the case, this was hardly driven. This was like a garage car. 99.9% of its life spent in a garage. Anyway, let's look at Doug's take. I've always had a soft spot for the Prowler, even though it doesn't have the big V8 and a manual transmission some had hoped for. This one is in great shape with relatively low mileage. Not relatively, this is low miles. 10,000 miles. That's like not even 2,000 miles a year. That's like not even 1,000 miles a year, honestly. That's like 500 miles a year at most. This thing was barely driven with relatively low mileage, like I just said, and it's in a bright color like all Prowlers should be. Now, again, I don't remember what color the Prowler was that I saw in my dealership, but I do know it was not yellow. Anyway, looking at some of the pictures, these things were just so strange. When these things came out in 99, they looked like prototypes because they were just so strange. There are no cars today that look like this, for good reason, because if a car came out looking like this, everyone would call it ugly. Like, car enthusiasts call the new Kia Soul ugly. It's not ugly. It's okay looking. It's not ugly. And yeah, this is just very out of the box. It makes no sense. Plymouth, this is one of the reasons why they went out of business, because they made stuff like this, which hardly sold. They spent so much money. This one does have a little bit of a chip right there, but they spent so much money kind of just making this car into a real thing that they pretty much used their money and they ran out of business. They couldn't even come up with an interior of their own. They had to use it from other Dodge models and Chryslers. It was really bad. My parents actually had an 04 Sebring. It looks very similar to this one. They had a 2004 Chrysler Sebring, and it looked like this. This was very, very interesting. It has a very interesting interior. I like it. I know a lot of people like it. A lot of people don't like it. It's just very strange. One of the things is the styling. Because you look at the interior. The interior looks very, very normal. It looks like, you know, a 99 Durango or something like that. It doesn't look like it would be so special. And then you look right here. This is just one of the hints. The fact that you have a body-colored gauge cluster right there. That's just one of the hints. The only car that I can think that has, like, body-colored panels in the car is Nissan Juke. Of course, there's probably other cars, but I can't think of them right now because, well, they don't really exist. Most cars just have plastic or some gray or silver or black, not anything like that. Even the gauge cluster, though, aside from this bright yellow, it looks pretty normal. Nothing special about it. There's your center control stack. Looks pretty normal. Again, the car is a pretty normal car on the inside. It's just so strange on the outside. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot more time to make this video, so I'm going to show you one more car, and then that'll be it, guys. So the last car I want to show you, you're probably looking at it, you probably think you're looking at it right now, which you are, but it's not what you think. I want to show you this Bentley Continental GT. Now, again, I haven't really looked at any of these cars before I started recording. This is my first time looking at it, just like you guys, unless you're on cars and bids all the time, which I highly doubt. But this is a Bentley Continental GT, and it is 18.5 is what it's going for, which is way too low for one of these. These things, this is in like decent, this is in good condition. Look at this, 31,000 miles. And they're trying to, and 18.5 is what they're getting out of it. That's too cheap. Now, of course, this is a 16, 17-year-old car at the end of the day, but still, I think it should be going for at least 30, maybe 40 grand at most. I wouldn't go over 40, but I would go at 40 at most. Maybe 35, but 18.5 is that's pretty much a giveaway right there. So I really hope that as time goes on that it gets a little bit higher. Of course it will, but I hope it gets to like the 30s because, you know, 18.5 is nothing. You can get a Civic for that. No, I wouldn't pay what I can get a Civic for with a Bentley. It just doesn't make sense. Anyway, this one has a 6-speed automatic. It's all-wheel drive, 31,000 miles, and it's got a 6-liter turbocharged W12. This is what the Phaeton had in it. This exact same engine, of course, that was heavily modified in this car, but that exact same engine was used in the Phaeton, just not the one we saw earlier. Anyway, let's read Doug's take. The Continental GT is a fantastic luxury coupe, and they become wonderfully affordable. Obviously. This car also features one of my all-time favorite engines, the Bentley 6-liter twin-turbo W12. Now, I don't know if the W12 was smaller in the Phaeton or not. I'm not really into weird cars like that, but I do know that it had a W12. Anyway, looking at this one, it looks like a brand new car, honestly. It looks like it was just brought off the showroom floor in 2004. That's what it looks like to me. Like you could buy one of these things and it looks like the day you just got it at that dealership back in 2004. It looks amazing. It really does. And I really hope this thing does not sell for 18.5. That is just too cheap for one of the best cars. And as a matter of fact, I have a picture of this on my Instagram account. I'll link that in the description below so you can go see that. It's a very interesting car, although the one I took was not so good quality because it was zoomed in all the way because, well, it was like far away and we weren't going fast enough to catch up to it. Anyway, it does have Smart Key, which is interesting, I guess. I don't know if a lot of cars in 2004 had Smart Key. Of course, you can get a Civic today with that. But yeah, I mean, it looks very nice. Some scratches, some scrapes, but still, 18K, it should be way more than that. Yeah, some scratches, scrapes, like I just mentioned, but nothing that can't be taken care of. Oh yeah, that one. Again, I haven't looked at this car yet, but look at that. That's not good. Now, I don't know if that can be taken care of by yourself. You might have to go to a professional for that one because that does not look good. But anyway, there are your wheels. What happened there? That's interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, but this one is just kind of littered with dents, scratches, little dings here. Yeah, it doesn't look too good. But the interior looks immaculate for its age, for, you know, everything about this. It looks immaculate. This is a very nice interior. Bentley clearly used some of the nicest materials they knew how to create back in 2004. This car still looks good today in 2020. You know, there are some cars, there are some luxury cars like the 3 Series, the A3, the A4, that still don't look this nice 16, 17 years later. Bentley has definitely used the correct materials. They have not aged at all. There's your spare. There's your Bentley W12. It looks very, very nice. You have some undercarriage, you have some undercarriage shots there. It looks like a very nice car. And then there's the original sticker. This thing, I don't know if you can see it, but it got 11 miles a gallon city, 18 highway. That's just awful. It really is. Now, you can't see it, but trust me. Look it up, and this thing got 11 city, 11 miles a gallon. There are cars that are getting like 5 times that amount, and 11. There you see, 18 highway. It's truly terrible. And then there are your sheets. And then that's pretty much all the documentation. If you want to buy this car, if you're interested, you'll look at that on your own. But I think that'll about do it, guys, for the Cars and Bids website. Go check it out. Go bid on some cars. At least pay what they're worth. Don't pay under. Pay what they're worth. These cars are very interesting. They're very cool, and I promise you guys, if you like this, I will do some of these. I'll do more of these. I'll make it a series. I'll do it on Cars and Bids, Bring a Trail, all that stuff, and something else. I forgot what I was going to say. Okay, guys, sorry about that. I will also tell you how much the cars went for when they finish auctioning in the next few days, weeks, whenever they're finished auctioning. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Don't forget to go bid.